For 72 years, nightfall in the mountains of western Guatemala closed in on Rosa Sanchez. The walls of her modest hut dancing in the flickering shadows of a candle. The winding and dangerous paths of her home village of Nueva Esperanza lit only by stars. 7 decades of darkness. Nueva Esperanza, or New Hope. August 2012 brought hope to Rosa in ways she could not imagine, but always dreamed of. When strangers arrive from a world that she has never known, bringing electric power that she has never had.
A lot of the people up on the mountain, you don't see them smile very much. I had her flip the switch. She turned around and she had a big smile on her face.
We knew how grateful she was, and they all hugged us. The whole family hugged us, and that's what we came for. It was very humbling, very humbling.
In the remote jungles of Guatemala, 7,000 feet above the clouds.
You just lean back in your hooks, your belt, and just think, what a great day God's having today. Never have I thought I would climb a pole above clouds.
Where progress has been light years away.
I had no idea that people actually truly lived this way, that it was this hard.
"32 Hoosier linemen challenge gravity, Mother Nature, and terrain. Offering more than hope, creating more than change, bringing light and power to the people."
Power to the People is made possible through the generous support of Cooperative Financial Corporation, CoBank, Indiana's Electric Cooperatives, Service Concepts, NRECA, and NRECA International Foundation.
They come from the heartland, from small towns of close friends. They are the first to restore some normalcy. When sudden evil rips the normal away. Henryville, March 2nd.
These people had something and it was all taken away from them. They ain't got nothing left. So it means a lot when you can come somewhere and help somebody out.
The call often comes in the middle of the night. The time away from wife and kids measured in days. The moments on the job tallied in 16-hour increments. The working conditions, often harsh. Meals on the run, standard. This is a lineman's life. The men you never see, but cheer when they succeed. For before recovery can begin, power needs to be restored.
It takes a special type of person that's not afraid to just jump in with both feet and go at it. I mean, these guys are go-getters. You have to be able to want to go and go and go until you get people's lights back on.
Their tireless efforts know no boundaries. And these men have shouldered the burden in blinding snow and bitter ice, and at disasters like Hurricane Katrina, any place there is a need. But where Gavin, Jordan, and 30 other Indiana volunteers are heading next is uncharted territory. It's one thing to restore power to people who have lost it. It is another thing to bring it to people who have never had it. For more than 50 years, the National Rural Electric Cooperative Association's International Foundation has been making reliable and affordable electricity a reality in developing countries. After a year of planning, weeks of training, and organizing $500,000 of equipment and manpower, the Indiana co-ops are sending the largest volunteer crew in NRECA history. They will electrify 3 remote villages in Guatemala in one of the toughest expeditions yet. For the families of the linemen, like that of 15-year veteran Troy Fisher, it's an emotional time.
Take care, Mom. Have fun.
I'm proud of Troy. I'm scared. It's just fear. It's the unknown. I just need to know that he's okay. Have a really good time. I love you.
Love you too. Bye, guys.
This is the road we came in on, and as we leave, you'll notice it looks like we're just going to drive right over the cliff.
It's the width of the road and that sharp turn right there. It was like, are you kidding me?
One thing's for certain, this will be no pleasure trip.
Didn't realize we were going to have to pack some stuff almost a quarter of a mile. I figured, oh, maybe 5 or 6 city blocks off the road. Not a quarter of a mile to a half mile in some stance.
I've been in line work 35 years and done a lot of different work. Worked hurricanes, worked ice storms, and this was probably the toughest work I've ever done.
Stop. Stuck in a tree. Stuck in a tree!
Climbing a pole is probably really one of the most dangerous things a lineman can do, because if you fall off, there's the potential of dying, actually. But there's even a bigger potential probably of injuring yourself bad enough to completely change your life.
Being a lineman is one of the 10 most dangerous jobs in the world.
There's always that unexpected that happens, that you hope that nobody's in harm's way when that unexpected happens.
Gavin Strantz is manager of job training, safety, and loss control at Indiana's statewide association of rural electric cooperatives.
The reality of the job was that we were in a remote area, a very remote area. And I knew that if we had a serious accident, even though they said they'd medevac us out, it was going to be tough getting them guys down off that mountain. If it takes a little bit longer to do the thing and make sure it's the way we need to do it, take the time to do it that way, guys.
Safety is always number one with linemen. But even with that overriding mission, Gavin is mindful that during his long career, 2 fellow linemen have died on the job. As work begins in this primitive place, he knows the risks are higher.
When we was in Guatemala, it wasn't the perfect world.
Terry, did we only bring one drill?
We can't even get it up here. It's a broken truck. The one is, yeah, right in the middle of the road.
Find out, Terry, what is going on.
First day on the mountain, stringing 1,200-foot spans of wire across gorges.
I got her all warmed up for you. I am.
No paved roads, no bucket trucks, nothing below but jungle, and a 1,000-foot drop. The tough job is just beginning to get tougher, more precarious, and full of unknowns.
Get a shovel.
Come on when you back that way. If I get a shovel.
That pole got exciting. It was set shallow. We had a gap on this side, 4 to 5 inches. Once we got up on top, and it shifted on us, so it got pretty hairy for a minute.
I always pray. I pray about, I just did then. I pray the whole time I go up the pole. Maybe it's a little redundant, but
nope.
I'm just like, hey, keep me and him safe and don't let this thing fall. And that's just what I do that helps me.
Nothing is easy here. Everything is a struggle. All the work takes longer. There are shortages. And working 10-hour days, 7 days a week, the Indiana linemen are in a race against time with twice as much work as anticipated.
Well, we've had a couple of conditions here where the fog, the guy could be on one pole and he couldn't see the guy on the next pole because of the clouds. We're working in the clouds and the elevation, so We're working in conditions unlike anything we've ever encountered in any of our lives.
I like that. You didn't tell us that.
I wasn't worried about you, hell.
Hey!
Yeah, it's kind of exciting when you're on a pole and you can see the lightning flashing around and you're kind of thinking, well, that was close. But I didn't feel anything this time. That near was closer, and I didn't feel like, oh, I felt that one.
They fight Mother Nature, the rain, and the terrain.
We've been in the backs of trucks and getting beat around. I've got bruises where I didn't think I'd have bruises before. I know everybody else does too. It's just hard to get around up in here.
Material's running short and time's running out. So there was just about every day I didn't feel like we were going to complete everything we wanted to complete.
That was our constant worry, and I think it was their constant worry too, is are we going to have enough material to do the job that we looked these people right straight in the eyes and said, yeah, we can do that. We promised these people and we need to do it, and then that makes us work a little bit harder and turn it up a notch.
Injuries, illness, insects, tempers fray, doubts grow. Will they finish what they started? They are linemen.
Let me tell you what, you tell a lineman they can't do something, I guarantee you they're going to get the job done.
We got each other's back. We watch out for each other.
It's a family. It's a special family. It's not blood family.
I think we're all a little crazy. Just borderline. You gotta be. Who else was going to say, hey, yeah, I'm going to stand on a piece of metal that's this wide and a chunk of wood 30, 40 feet up in the air and be near the kind of voltages we deal with. It's certain death. I don't know whether it's because we're adrenaline junkies or whether we're just all a bunch of nuts.
It's one of those jobs that you can't afford not to pay attention and keep concentrating on what you're doing, not for 1 second.
You can't have the me attitude out here. I mean, it's a whole group effort.
When we set out to do something, every one of us are going to accomplish that, no matter what it takes.
They're a band of brothers, and they mean a lot to each other. They really do, and they mean a lot to me.
Everybody asked, why would you want to do this? I did it because they didn't have it, and I did it to see if I could do it.
They have only 30 days to defy the odds and accomplish the mission, to string 20 miles of wire and bring power to more than 1,000 people, men, women, and children, who've waited their whole lives for this and have been betrayed before.
We're getting stared at like, well, obviously the aliens that came in to this little village and nobody knows what to think.
Once they saw we were willing to come down there and help them and get the job done for them, then there was a whole different attitude change. We saw how much they wanted us down there then.
It's a country with many needs. 2/3 of Guatemalans live below extreme poverty. Almost 3 out of 4 children under the age of 5 are malnourished. In fact, Guatemala has the 4th highest rate of chronic malnutrition in the world. The indigenous Mayan and Quiche eke out a subsistence living here in the Guatemala mountains. They live on the corn they grow on any available sliver of land, and plant coffee up and down the nearly vertical sides of the mountains to harvest some of the world's most coveted coffee beans. Their hard lives reflected in their faces. While families work to get by, faith and love of family, community, and traditions give them strength.
Padre, en esta noche queremos darte muchas gracias por
And it's this unexpected strength and the astounding eagerness of the Guatemalan people to work side by side with the Americans that humbles the linemen.
They're amazing people. To see what these men accomplished, you seen them carrying that pole up that hill the other day. I didn't even feel like a man after watching that.
The stuff that they did was
brutal with carrying the poles and digging the holes. They did the hard stuff.
Take a clear path to them machetes faster than somebody could with a chainsaw. Those guys headed down that hill and the trees were just a-falling and you could hear it. It was something to see.
And they taught me, if you have a will to do it, you're going to find a way to get it done. If you say something can't be done, they prove that it can.
I think the turning point was probably seeing the amount of work that the village people themselves were going to do, because these Guatemalan people, I have to tell you, they work tremendously. Their work ethic is unbelievable.
And somewhere, in the growing brotherhood between all the workers, the Americans learn an unexpected lesson. The Guatemalans teach them the difference between hope and faith.
And I really experienced it yesterday. I looked up on the side of the adobe house in the village we was in. They had taken our scrap wire and wrote Jesus S. Omar on the side. He says, Jesus is love. That's what it's about. Faith. It isn't hope, it's faith.
None of us will ever forget what we've done in Guatemala. And truthfully, you know, when we stop and take a look at it, God gave us that opportunity to achieve what we achieved.
We're told in the Bible that we are to let our light shine before men, and literally it's shining on this trip. We brought light to people who've never had light before, and it's a good feeling.
Just how far that light can shine in literally saving lives and improving communities is a story that began 4 years ago. Dusk. In Hoya Blanca, the wet season is in full swing, and the daily percussion of rain, thudding against the tin and concrete roofs of base camp, makes the linemen think of the challenges they'll face tomorrow.
Are we unloading and reloading each day?
They have a commitment to the people of this wild and rugged country that now seems more and more within reach with each passing sunset. Head northeast, and you run into a different world. Skies are clear, temperatures approach 100 degrees, and you can break out in a sweat just thinking about the heat. These are the dusty paths that wind through the nearly 200 small towns that make up Ixcan. What little infrastructure that was here was destroyed by the 3.5 decades of civil war. Signs of progress are everywhere in the region, but never more than here, in the miles and miles of new highway construction. Once the trip from Ixcan's capital, Playa Grande, to the city of Coban lasted 7 hours. Today, with luck, you can make it in 3. Before 2008, several expectant mothers from Ixcan who needed emergency surgery were sent to Coban's emergency room because the clinic in Ixcan could only administer critical care in daytime or under light created by generators which ran 3 hours a night. Some died in transit. From these tragedies came change through the American know-how of linemen from Georgia. They restored the region's power grid, bringing life-saving electricity to Ixcan's emergency room and maternity clinic.
Thank God, since the introduction of electricity, we've been able to see patients at any hour of the day. We can do a cesarean section on a pregnant woman without the risk of taking her to the operation room without electricity. There used to be more maternal death here. If someone is in danger, here anything could happen, and generally maternal death is a bit elevated. Neonatal death too, and now it's gone down.
Thank God, through the introduction of power, projects have started moving along. The construction of the school that we can see over there, that project began to work when the power was installed. Then they started to help us.
The other teachers sometimes bring the computers to present activities to the kids. We're also happy with that. And I think that some of them are very advanced. And it could be that they will be professionals in this community.
Back in Hoya Blanca, work continues on the most daunting phase of the project. Tucked far up in the mountains, the people of village number 3, Nueva Esperanza, had been told not to expect any miracles, that the Americans might not be able to reach them. It is a bitter message. Years before, they had raised money to bring power to the village. They began to raise some poles when the local contractor stopped them, saying that electrification was logistically impossible. That did not, however, stop him from disappearing with all their money. Now the villagers line the rocky path up to Nueva Esperanza to greet the daily arrival of the linemen that tells them their long-awaited dream is at hand.
These three represented here are close to the third village.
Yes. Soon, word spreads. At night, elders from neighboring villages come by to ask, how can the Americans help them to bring power to their people too? That same week, the Guatemalans announce they are forming their country's first rural electric cooperative here. The rural co-op model comes full circle, and Guatemala's new rural electric co-op will follow the same principles as America's. It will be owned by the people they serve. Life had changed little for rural America in 200 years, not until the next greatest thing, electricity, came along. Farm work was drudgery, done by hand and often in the dark, or by the flickering light of the candle, coal oil, and kerosene lamp. Women grew old fast, tied to the wood stove, the washboard, and the hand pump at the well. All that changed in 1935, when President Franklin Roosevelt created the Rural Electrification Administration. He gave it a simple mandate: electrify the more than 6 million U.S. farms without electricity. The REA offered farmers low-interest loans and a way to make rural electric power possible and affordable: the co-op. Farmers have always cooperated out of necessity, banding together because of weather, isolation, and a chancy economy. So when the power industry found it economically unfeasible to serve rural America, neighbors banded together to form their own rural electric cooperatives. In 1936, Boone County REMC in Lebanon, Indiana, became one of America's first rural electric cooperatives. Soon, they were cropping up across the nation. REA linemen became folk heroes, erecting transmission lines, cutting and setting poles, hanging meters, wiring homes, bringing rural America out of darkness into the modern age. In 1935, less than 10% of America's farms had electricity. Then came rural electrification. Now, more than 75 years later, that piece of history comes full circle. For remote mountain villages in Guatemala, our past is now their future, thanks to these rural electric linemen from Indiana. Today, there are more than 900 co-ops in the U.S., serving 42 million people with the latest in technology. 850,000 people are served in Indiana by these Rural Electric Membership Corporations, or REMCs.
Okay, fantastic.
And each year, every co-op holds a members' meeting where democracy mixes with a big-top festival feel, like this annual meeting in LaGrange County in northern Indiana.
They're a wonderful bunch of people, and they do everything right for us that they can do, and we just love them.
I know half these people by first name. We've turned our lights on, we've cut their trees down. They know us by REMCs, and that's what REMC is about, is a co-op. It's more about the people than it is the business.
The service, they're always on call. If we have any type of trouble, they're there.
They're not just a customer, they're a member. They actually own a piece of this business.
These are the faces of owners. Every co-op consumer is a voting member. Every co-op is an independent, locally owned, not-for-profit business built on the values of cooperation and mutual aid, especially in emergencies. It's the co-op culture of banding together. It's not just their job. It's a work ethic, steeped in their history, spanning nearly a century. That even extends beyond our shores. In Guatemala, that means doing the work by hand, setting poles the same way REA linemen did 77 years ago. digging holes by hand, only this time at the edge of a 1,000-foot drop. And when a new pole needs to be set, the two oldest crew members, pushing 60, Terry Atkins and Felix Vanner, dig the 6-foot hole.
You realize how small you are and how fragile you are when you see the rough terrain here. I never imagined it would be as exhausting as it is, just moving 100 feet up and down these mountains.
Improvise, adapt, and overcome. That's what a lineman has to do. I've never once on this trip been disheartened and thought, no, there's no way. It's just throwing the towel, let's just quit and go home. No, never once.
The spirit is willing, but the flesh has been pushed to the limit. Still, the linemen's never lived, who's heard the slogan, all work and no play.
His is bigger than mine.
Free time at base camp brings moments to connect with the people of Hoya Blanca, who have turned into generous hosts, sharing what little they have. Morning brings cups of coffee from beans roasted by the linemen themselves. And there are always the children, everywhere, playing with toys, begging for attention. Jeremy's even taught them his famous Coyote on the Plains call.
And their reaction was?
They like it, so you can hear them now. They're answering me back.
Even in the toughest days out in the field, it's humor that's kept body and soul together.
About 8,000 feet in the air. Clouds are a little low, but not too bad. We can still have pretty good view of the scenery, and the trees are looking nice. It's a cool 75 degrees. Thanks for visiting Hoosier's Power of the World, Guatemala.
Way to go, Bobby. That was good. That was good.
That sucked.
If there's one person whose humor never seems to wane, it's Terry Atkins.
Feel them stairs vibrating, this big fat guy's coming down.
Always quick with a joke, or sometimes the good-natured brunt of the same. His energy seems boundless.
Me and you, pal, the old guys. We'll show them how tough we are.
I'm not that old.
Afternoon. Just a day and a half left for the second crew to work on the mountaintops. And the remarkable has happened. There are no agenda items. The men from Indiana have finished electrifying village number 3, the village that was impossible to reach, in the dense jungle, along towering crests that were impossible to run wire across. The village where no promises were made, because the task was impossible to complete in the time allowed. These men have done the impossible, with time left to spare. At the evening meal, this reality overwhelms even the man who's always been quickest with a smile.
I'll be honest, when we showed up here 3 weeks ago or so, I thought there's no way, man. It's just this country's gonna eat us up. But you guys did it. Sorry, guys. I got to see what my grandfather did in '39. Like 73 old man today. Pulled that switch for the first time in his life. And that's why we're here. That's what it's all about. You guys did it. You guys were here the first 2 weeks. And you sacrificed. You left home, left your families, left your wives, left your kids, your grandkids, whatever. You know, we made your co-op proud in your state and our great country. And that's why we're here. I think each and every one of you guys got so much pride, so much professionalism, dignity, and honor. And don't let anybody take any of this away from you, because they can't. Because we did what not anybody and everybody can do. And don't forget that either. You guys did one hell of a job. My hat's off to all of you.
These wooden pallets have carried wire, transformers, and tools from the States to the base of the mountains that have been the linemen's home for nearly a month now. Today, they will carry some respite up into these hills. The day before, the linemen strung wire to a shack, barely larger than a tool shed. And in a world that has already shown them unimaginable poverty, what they found inside stunned them. No furniture, a father incapacitated by epileptic seizures, a mother blind, a little boy, and a girl, 6 years old, her head shaved because of lice, her toes sticking out of shoes that have been too small for too long. She does the caretaking, the cooking, the survival of her invalid parents and her little brother resting on her tiny shoulders.
It was very humbling. I'd never seen anybody live like that. I've never seen it firsthand to be that sad. You have no idea. It was something very heartbreaking.
When we left that place, I cried like a baby because it was just hard to see. My son's probably a year younger than this little girl, and I can't imagine the amount of responsibility on my son that this little girl has. We decided that evening we're going to buy him a pair of shoes. And then it turned in, well, we'll buy him some clothes too, so we bought him each an outfit and a pair of shoes. We bought the mother a pair of shoes because hers were worn out, and her father a new pair of boots. And then we decided to collect a bunch of food to give to him.
And so the linemen return, bearing gifts, their handmade table filled with food and presents for the children. It is then that hope is replaced by heartbreak. The linemen learn that the family with nothing will lose even the nothing they cling to. They are being evicted.
We took up collection between all the guys, which is $100 American, and gathered that and to pay that off for them. So that's one less thing they have to worry about.
Yet it is not until the night before they leave Hoya Blanca that the men from Indiana learn their generosity has inspired the entire town.
The elders from the church come up, and they had heard what the Americans had done. And they wanted to pray for us. And I looked around as they were doing that, and let me tell you what, you could see a tear or two coming down the cheeks of those linemen. And linemen are pretty tough, let me tell you. They're a unique breed, and they, to see them guys shed a tear or two is you're tugging on people's hearts when that happens, because they just, they're tough. But that was the things that remind me of how rewarding this job really is.
Buenos amigos americanos.
The music is quiet now, the linemen gone, but the memories are still vivid. In ways no one could have predicted, the linemen who traveled 1,800 miles to bring power to these 3 villages find they have experienced a power even greater, the power of the human spirit.
Seeing the faces the first time those lights come on, and it's like, man, it is worth it all. It is worth everything, every bug bite I've got, every sliver I've got in my hand, is worth it all.
It was more special than I could have ever imagined at that moment. It was, for me, I think that to see that gratitude out of people that have so little,
These are the unexpected gifts, lessons that will transform the linemen, just as the power they brought the villagers has already begun to transform their lives.
To see the faces on the kids along the road on the way out there and at the village, you know that it's going to improve their way of life. As they get older, they'll have opportunities that their parents and grandparents didn't have.
It's opening a door that they don't realize what it can give them, to keep them connected to the world so that they can grow.
It's been an adventure, but it's been an honor and a privilege to serve the people of Guatemala.
The people are obviously great, big-hearted people, just like in our country.
These are people that I'll remember all my life. It was just an experience I'll never forget. I hope if in 2 years I get the opportunity to come back, because I would.
I'd go back next week if I could. I would go back in a heartbeat. Getting paid to do something is one thing, but seeing somebody light up like that is another.
They don't have the luxuries that we have up here in the United States. But you know what? The kids don't know that. They were just as happy as the kids that we have up here. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? I'm going to help these kids even have a better life than what they have right now. I may not be able to make them any happier than what they are, but I know down deep they're going to have a better life.
Imagine it now. Somewhere in Hoya Blanca, or Las Nubes, or Nueva Esperanza, a Guatemalan lineman will carry on and work these new lines. The women no longer have to walk miles to grind corn, or cook in smoky shacks, or work in the dark. Throughout these savage and beautiful mountains, farmers will earn more to support their families from their coffee bean harvest. They can build a clinic and more schools. Their lives will change forever because of something we take for granted. So now, when darkness falls behind these mountains, the lights come on, one at a time, and their future shines more clearly, because these Hoosier linemen brought power to the people.
Power to the People is made possible through the generous support of Cooperative Financial Corporation, CoBank, Indiana's Electric Cooperatives, Service Concepts, NRECA, and NRECA International Foundation.